everyone, welcome to the Freight Escape and a very special video. Over this past summer, the Long Island Railroad has conducted track work along their Port Jefferson branch to replace switches at Hunt 3 interlocking and more. Now, I was able to catch a lot of this special work in today's video. And if you've been keeping up, you've seen me posting a lot of community posts about this thing, just hinting at this video. And now that summer is finally and sadly over, I decided that I would show you all of those catches. Now, before I do, I want to say that now that summer's over, I have to go back to school, which means that less and less videos will be coming out, which kind of stinks, but I have some good videos in plan, so it's all worth it. Anyway, let's take it back to the start in late June of 2023. After seeing a community post from another YouTuber that a work train had arrived at Greenlawn the day prior, I set out to Greenlawn to go see it. Not only was that work train there, but another one was also there, at the station. Now, I wasn't really taking a lot of videos, so enjoy this photo montage. After that, we decided to leave because we were running errands at the time. Anyway, before we left, we saw this quick meet at the crossing. About 2 hours later, we had seen on radar that a work train was going to Duke Siding in Northport. I ventured back out to Greenlawn to see it pass the other two work trains. In the meantime, I caught these trains, so enjoy. The work train came through, but not in the way that I expected. Highway rail fan, who was up on the bridge, told us that the work train had gone into the siding, which was strange because it said that the work train was going to Duke. Anyway, by the time that we got there, the work train on the second track before the station had coupled to the new work train. We got some more photos of the third work train, which was interesting because it had a flat car with excavation vehicles on it. 2 days later, I went to Green Lawn to try to chase around some of the track work. I was unsuccessful with finding any moving track work, but what I did find was a triple-header work train. We then headed down to the station to see a work train with 150 and a few gondolas. We then headed for Huntington with hopes for better luck. We then passed quite a few high railers by the Park Avenue crossing in Huntington. When we got there, we saw that the Trackwork vehicles were still there like we expected. Through some bushes, we saw a high railer that was doing some track work. Then some of the Trackwork vehicles pulled forward. Anyway, enjoy. Then one of the Trackwork vehicles pulled out west. Then, yet again, it pulled back. Also, later that night, I returned to see the triple header, and like I expected, it was still there. The next day, I was by Maryland Avenue when I noticed that the engines from the triple header were headed back to Hallman on an equipment move. So I went to go see it. Anyway, enjoy. A few days later, I noticed that a work train was going to Greenlawn with 150 on it, the engine that had the nice K5H horn. So I set out to see it. Anyway, enjoy. Well, that was one nice horn. Anyway, after that, I had a nice interaction with one of the crew members on today's work train.
Where do you put the pictures? Anywhere?
Oh, I put it on YouTube.
What's that?
I put it on YouTube.
You put it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Cool. What's your
Name?
name on
It's
YouTube?
called Freight Escape.
Freight Escape? Freight? Like freight?
The Freight Escape.
Alright, cool. I'll look it up.
Alright.
Alright, be careful, alright?
Yeah, alright. Thank you.
After that, the crew left, so we also decided to leave. Let me give a little context behind this one. We were coming home from some errands. I saw that there was a work train with some gondolas in the Green Lawn siding, so we pulled down Railroad Street to see it. As soon as we were driving down Railroad Street, I noticed that a moving work train was coming right towards it, making a work train meet. That was some luck right there. Anyway, I walked down to the crossing to see if the other work train was going to back up. It was still stopped there, and it would likely be there until tonight or maybe some other day. Me and two other rail fans who were there noticed that the crew was getting out of the first work train that moved through, so we decided to leave. The next day, I returned to Green Lawn to see if the second work train that was moving was still there. It wasn't, but the work train in the siding was still there. I then headed over to Huntington to see the Trackwork vehicles also still there. A few days later, I happened to drive by Huntington when I saw a work train. It was in a shady parking lot, but these photos were worth it. On it was MP15AC number 171, which I had previously seen at Green Lawn a few nights before. Sadly, I completely forgot to take any footage because we were just driving past. Eager to get some more track work, I headed to Green Lawn to see nothing. I then decided to head to Huntington to see if anything was there, as that's where I'd seen the work train earlier in the day. I made a stop by the Park Avenue crossing in Huntington to see some high railers that were there. I didn't just find a high railer, but I heard something in the distance, something that would make this exploration a whole lot better. That was my favorite horn of all time, the Nathan K5H. Only one engine on the Long Island Railroad had that, MP15AC number 150. That meant a few MPs were close. We then headed to Huntington to see nothing. As we were pulling out, I noticed by the Huntington Equipment Yard 3 MPs, which almost looked like they were building a train. We then headed over, and as soon as we got there, we saw MP15AC number 152 pulling a singular ballast car. .152 and the ballast car pulled forward, as it looked like 150 and a car with excavators on it had also pulled forward. 150 and the excavator car then shoved back into the equipment yard. We then drove past the equipment yard only to realize that there were 3 MPs, which looked like they were building a train, probably to take back to Hallban in the midnight hours. We then heard 150's awesome K5H and quickly rushed back to the Pulaski Road crossing to get this awesome shot. Wow, just wow. Front row seats to my favorite horn of all time. What could be better? Anyway, we left after that due to the Nantucket trip being tomorrow. Also, during the Nantucket trip, I missed train after train after train. So much rare stuff in a span of like 5 days. Finally back in town, I headed over to Greenlawn to see if there was anything. I found a lot of Trackwork vehicles, which was cool. Then something crazy happened. The employees actually gave me a tour of the train. Also, there's music, because the guy who was showing me around didn't want his voice to be heard. That was awesome. I would have sticked around longer, but this was the day that I went to Westbury to catch the RS-41. A few days later, I happened to be driving through Greenlawn when I noticed some work cars in the siding. I then pulled over to see this meet with engine number 404. Well, that's how today horribly started. I then headed to Greenlawn later that night to see if the engines had went there, and sure enough, I was right. One engine was with a few cars, while another engine was with the string of gondolas by the station. I then got a nice meet with a double engine meeting the two work trains. Anyways, besides the two work trains, there was a cool surprise in the parking lot. Little Giant, an LIRR crane car. Anyways, after that, I went to Duke's to see if anything was there. Nothing was there, so we decided to call it a night. This was the final day. Not the final day of track work, but the final day that I would see it. The other days that they were doing work, I wasn't really around. Anyways, today's train was Work to Green Lawn. I was expecting it to be a few gondolas or something, but I wasn't expecting what we were about to see. Work to Green Lawn was waiting behind an eastbound, which had an awesome K5LL horn. Finally, the work train came into sight, though it was still unknown the consist and the equipment. We could now see that this work train had two MP-15s sandwiching two ballast cars. After 165 pulled into the second siding, it was clear what was happening. Work operations. I was so excited to see this. Oh my goodness, look at how cool that is. Two MP-15 backs right up next to each other. Isn't that awesome? It was now clear that the two MP-15s were going to shove the two ballast cars down by Green Lawn Station, so we stayed to see that. Little too late if I say so myself, the two MPs had already finished shoving the two cars over the crossing and now we're at the station. The race was on. Of course, as the moment that I actually get to the platform, everything stops moving. That was one great day of action and a great send-off to the summer work trains. Wow, what a summer, and I wouldn't have wanted to spend it any other way. Being at the tracks this whole summer made me really appreciate trains a tiny bit more. You probably don't even realize it, but most of the goods in your house was delivered by trains. That's how important they are to the economy. And these work trains, they repair the tracks so that the trains that you ride anywhere can go to their destination safely.